Good morning, Tampa Bay. What is going on? Channelside in the morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. Happy Tuesday to everybody, man. We're still coming off we're coming off a very nice victory for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. I'm happy. The Orlando Magic unfortunately fell last night to the Houston Rockets, 134 to 127. So we'll talk about that. Paolo Banchero, I'm telling you, Paolo Banchero, man, he's doing some things. I've got some numbers here. I want to run. I want to run through them, and it's pretty impressive. You know, when you put pen to paper and you start crunching numbers and you see exactly what this kid is doing, it's actually really, really, really impressive to watch Paolo Banchero in action and leading this team. I know that obviously the Magic are sitting 2-9, which is not ideal, but they are overcoming some injuries. There are problems that this team does have. And eventually, you've got to assume that they will get it together and they will put it together. Otherwise, they're just going to kind of waste Paulo Banchero, which we definitely don't want, right? We definitely don't want that. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the Bucks. Obviously, they're heading over to Munich for the NFL's debut in my motherland of Germany against the Seattle Seahawks. And scary game, not going to lie, definitely a scary game. It's not exactly where we want to be, but with Akeem Hicks being back, we did notice an uptick in the defensive output from the Buccaneers. I know the Rams can't run the ball or struggle to run the ball. They were 31st in the league heading into Sunday. We were 32nd. But Vita Vea was able to get to Matthew Stafford twice, and largely in part because of Akeem Hicks, because he was double teamed on both of those sacks from Vita Vea, because now it has turned into a pick your poison. Do you want Vita Vea to sack your quarterback, or do you want Akeem Hicks to sack your quarterback? Geno Smith is obviously a little more mobile than Matthew Stafford is at this, especially at this stage in his career. But it's positive momentum for this team. It's positive momentum as they go forward. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers actually have the third easiest schedule in the league for the remainder of the season. The Atlanta Falcons are number one overall with a 0.419 strength of schedule remaining. Seattle is the second easiest, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the third easiest. Obviously, part of Seattle's schedule is that our Bucks are 4-5, so they are under 500, which does help Seattle's strength of schedule. But if we're looking, the Bucks, if they start riding the ship where they are now, with an easier strength of schedule, you're now looking at a team with a 0.442 strength of schedule remaining. You're now looking at a team that is in a prime opportunity. They're in a prime situation to make something happen, right? And I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm not saying that I want the team to tank. I don't want them to tank, right? I think tanking is the cheap way out. I think tanking is for losers. And the Bucks aren't losers. The Bucks are just struggling. Right? I've said this time and time again. You put this team on paper again, and they're the best team in the NFL without a question. It's not even, in my mind, it's not even a comparison with any other team as to who is closer in terms of, and this is including the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles would be the closest team, but I still think you've got to give the edge to the Buccaneers if you're looking at this team side by side on paper. I think you have to give them the nod. Where we're struggling is just our ineffectiveness. And I've started to crunch some of the numbers. I've started to run some reports. This is kind of, this is my thing. I love analyzing stats, breaking down plays and film. I love this is my favorite part of football. What I'm looking at is we've got this, I'm going to call it an internet narrative of completely abandoning the run. And I've been guilty of it too. I've been guilty of saying that the Buccaneers are completely abandoning the run. But that's actually not, that's false. And I'm going to tell you why it's false. You cannot be abandoning the run when your RB1, Leonard Fournette, is sitting 5 carries outside of the top 10 in the league in attempts. Leonard Fournette has 121 attempts. Jamal Williams is number 10 in the league with 126 rushing attempts. Leonard Fournette is 11th. You can't be abandoning the run. That's a false narrative. It's a false narrative of abandoning the run. You know, Leonard Fournette is extremely frustrated with being replaced, but you're not doing anything with the ball. You're not doing anything with the ball. The Bucs are still dead last in rushing with 60.7 yards per game. Still dead last. We've always said, and I'm guilty of it too. I guess this is kind of an eat your crow kind of day for me, right? The Bucs offensive line ranks in pass block is 7th in the league. In run block is 26th in the league. So if you're 26th in the league in run blocking, but dead last, do you see where I'm going with this? If you're 26th in the league in run blocking effectiveness for your offensive line, but you're dead last in running in yardage per game, and your running back and your starting running back is just outside the top 10 in carries, I kind of have an idea where the problem is. Just saying, I kind of have an idea where the problem is. You're not abandoning the run. You're still feeding Leonard Fournette, who only has 271 yards after contact. Jamal Williams, with his 5 more carries, has 344 yards more, 344 yards after contact. You're looking at 73 more yards after contact on 5 carries. Look, Leonard's averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Rachaad White is averaging 3.1 yards per carry. I would rather, at this point, let Leonard be as frustrated as he wants. Let him be frustrated. You demanded X amount of dollars. You were holding out for X amount of dollars. You are a top 10 paid running back in the league, and you are one of the worst, if not the worst, starting running back in the league statistically this season. Sure, you've got value. There's value in pass catching for Leonard Fournette. Rachaad White can pass catch. Why not? Why not start Rachaad White? We're seeing develop in real time. We're seeing the problem with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And good morning, Jay, in the chat. I just turned on the comments. I'm seeing you over there. Am I getting ready for Hurricane Nicole? No, I'm not. I'm over hurricanes. This hurricane's not going to happen. I refuse to believe it. It's not a thing. No hurricane. It's not going to happen. But yeah, I'm still looking at the Buccaneers. Yeah, the Buccaneers definitely could make the playoffs. Eagles and Bucs in the NFC Championship. If they can't figure out how to run the ball, I don't know how far they can make it into the playoffs. They've got to figure something out. And I think it starts with Rachaad White. Just like you said in the chat, Jay, I think we've got to, I'm not opposed to starting Rachaad White. Let Leonard Fournette sit on the bench. Let him pout about it. Let him take his ball. Let him run home. And then we trade him in the offseason because he's not worth the money that he's getting paid. Which is also difficult because now you've got a running back that's not worth the money that he's getting paid. You put him on the trade block, and who wants Leonard Fournette at this point with that contract? Maybe Jerry Jones because he just likes overpaying running backs, but who wants Leonard Fournette with that contract? Now you're in a completely different predicament because you've got to pay this guy. Sure, you could probably move him for a late round pick, but is he more valuable than than a fourth or a fifth round pick? I guess it depends on what's available in the draft and what our needs are heading into the draft, right? And we're not talking draft. It's way too early to talk draft. You know, I said the Bucks went from top 7 in picks. Now they're down to I think 17th. And it's not, it's definitely not something. It's not something that I'm looking forward to. I said this yesterday. I do hope that we end the season on a high note for Tom Brady because I'm ready to move on from Tom Brady. And it was great seeing him take over in the fourth quarter. And he's the reason that the Buccaneers won that game. He took over in the fourth quarter and he showed us why he is Tom Brady. But we know the end is sooner rather than later for Tom Brady. And I want to find that next guy. I want to know who is our next guy, who is next in line. Because it ain't Trask or Gabbert. We know that. We know that much. I don't like the uncertainty of not knowing what happens after Tom Brady. That to me is what scares me. Tom Brady is currently 8th. He's the currently 8th ranked quarterback in the league. I know I've talked about empty yards because he only has 10 touchdowns on the season. He only has 1 pick, so they're empty yards in a sense. He's second in the league in passing yards. But the Buccaneers are also tied for the league lead in drops with 19 with the Miami Dolphins, who also have a whole hell of a lot more touchdowns and production out of their passing attack. They're also running the ball better, right? The Miami Dolphins offense is firing on all cylinders. Our offense, however, is just completely struggling. It's something that needs to be addressed. The Bucks have maybe they do re-sign Rojo. Maybe they do. Rojo was a streaky running back. We knew what we were going to get with Rojo. The problem is he had some issues holding on to the ball, especially if you compare him to Leonard Fournette. That's the one real big positive of Leonard Fournette is that he just doesn't fumble the ball. Right? I said this like 3 weeks ago. He had like 300 and some odd carries without a fumble. And everybody goes, oh my God, you're going to jinx him. Well, he hasn't fumbled the ball, but he also hasn't really done anything with the ball either. It's just crazy to me that we've built this up, right? We've built this up of the offensive line cannot protect Tom Brady. Sure, he's been sacked more. He's on pace to be sacked more than he ever has been in his career. We'll give you that. But we've let this narrative build up of the Buccaneers passing offense is just bad. Right? And they were just abandoning the run, which is what was stalling drives. We've let this narrative build up and propel, but it's false. It's fake news. I had to throw out the fake news on midterm election day. But it's not correct. We're not abandoning the run. The offensive line is doing just fine in pass protection for Tom Brady. Sure, he has to get it. He's getting it out the quickest in the league, third quickest in the league. But the line is holding up in pass block. They're not doing so hot in run block, but we're not abandoning the run, and our running backs aren't doing anything. If you're 26 overall in run blocking and you're dead last, there's some sort of disconnect there. And it has to do with only having, I don't even know if I jotted this down. Leonard Fournette has 11 broken tackles on 121 carries. I don't know if I still have this thing pulled up here. You know what? I can do this here real quick. Let's we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna explain to you why this is important to me. So if we go on Pro Football Focus and filter down to 50% of 183 rushing attempts, which at that point right now is the league average. Josh Jacobs has 138 attempts. Right? So he has 17 more carries than Leonard Fournette. He has 51 missed tackles forced. Leonard Fournette has 11. I mean, it's egregious the lack of production that a top 10 paid running back has. And look, I get it. People have down years. Right? Jonathan Taylor is atrocious this year. He's also only played in 6 games. But the Indianapolis Colts are atrocious altogether. Jay in the YouTube chat says we know what Vaughn can do when running, but we never see him. At this point, we got to do whatever to establish a running threat. Vaughn wasn't a huge threat, but he's a strong runner, and Rojo gained yard. He had 3 straight 100-yard games just a couple seasons ago. Rojo is definitely an effective running back when he's there. And he's not going to command top 10 money, right? That's the thing. That's what hangs me up on Leonard Fournette. You tested free agency. You said, I'm worth X amount of dollars. But you can't, the things that you can control, broken tackles, forcing missed tackles, you can control those things, and you're not doing anything. For a starting running back, Leonard Fournette is the worst in terms of yards after contact. Yards before contact, that's not the running back's fault. That's the offensive line's fault. But he's not last in yards before contact either. Leonard Fournette's getting hit and he's dropping. Maybe he should have kept all that weight that people were saying. Maybe he should have kept all that weight on him. Been more of like a Jerome Bettis style running back, where he's just hard to bring down because he's like a bulldozer once he starts going north south, right? Maybe that's what he should have done, because right now what Leonard Fournette is doing is not good and it's not productive. And Leonard Fournette is hurting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And the numbers aren't lying. The numbers don't lie. We can all have our own opinions, our own narratives, our own thoughts, but the numbers at the end of the day are showing we're struggling to run the ball because our running back is not doing anything with the ball that is in his control. He is not elusive. He is also not running through people. So he's ineffective and he's a non-factor. So you have to move on. Put him on the bench. Start Rachaad White and put Keyshawn Vaughn at RB2. Let Leonard Fournette sit on the bench and think about, hey, I'm not really productive. What can I do to get better? You can't tell me that Keyshawn Vaughn can't match what Leonard Fournette can do in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield. You can't tell me that the production between White and Vaughn together can't be greater than or equal to what Leonard Fournette's production of catching the ball. You can't tell me that. It's frustrating. You know, you're watching a guy that's graded lower than everybody. It's just frustrating. And look, this is why the Rams played such a soft zone at the end of the game, because there was no threat to run the ball, right? Obviously that soft zone cost them the game because Tom Brady was able to pick them apart, but there is no respect for the running game. Maybe you need to bring that fire and put that fire under his ass, right? Maybe you need to do that if you're Todd Bowles. if you're Harold Goodwin. Put Leonard Fournette on the bench. Don't let him play against Seattle and Munich. You think that'll light a fire under his ass? Not getting to play or having a very limited amount of carries? Like, we look at this and go, well, Leonard Fournette only had 9 carries. He only had 8 carries. He's still top 11 in the league. He's still top 11. There is nothing holding him back other than himself at this point. That's the problems. That's where the problem starts. It's no longer we kept saying the problem starts up front. The numbers are there. The problem is not starting up front. Could they tighten up front a little bit? Yes, they could. Right? They could be a little bit better in pass in blocking. Right? Lenny needs to go full diva mode. That's what I want, Jay. I want to see Leonard Fournette go full diva. I want to see him throw a hissy fit. I want to see him pull a Kenny Galladay and clean out his locker after a win because he's upset. He needs to be frustrated because he's not doing anything with the ball. I've already ended. The Bucs not running the ball is an internet narrative. The Bucs are running the ball. Leonard Fournette is a top 11 running back in the league in carries, and he is the league's worst in forcing missed tackles, and he is the league's worst in yards per attempt. He is the league's worst in yards after contact, and he is not doing anything with the ball. The Buccaneers are not abandoning the run. That is an internet narrative, and it is fake. You can't tell me that that is a thing. The numbers are right there, guys. It's Leonard Fournette. I know there's a lot of Lenny fans, but we have to be realistic. The problem with running the ball is not the line. The problem with running the ball is the runner that's running the ball. And that's it. Guys, we got to go to break. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit strength of schedule, and then we're going to get into a lot of what Paolo Banchero is doing and the history that he is making, which is actually pretty damn impressive.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
Hey guys, this is Danny for BetUS. Head on over to BetUS.com. One of the most trusted sources for your game day wagering for over 3 decades now on the internet. If you use the promo code Channelside when you sign up a new account, they're going to hook you up with 125% bonus. Head on over to BetUS.com. Tell them Channelside sent you. We were talking about strength of schedule earlier, right? The Buccaneers have the 3rd easiest strength of schedule remaining, which is huge. Right? It's also the Buccaneers are also in a point right now where they can't afford to take any games off. We know that the Seattle Seahawks team they're a very formidable team right now at 6-3. They're not 6-3 by mistake, right? They're on a 4-game winning streak, which is actually, I think, is that not that's the 3rd longest winning streak in the NFL right now. Obviously behind the Eagles, who are 8-0, and the Vikings, who are 7-1. This the Vikings 7-1 or 8-1? 7-1. They've got the 3rd longest winning streak for a reason. Right? This is a very good team. This team is, and that to me boils down to coaching. That's what that does. That tells me that this is coaching 100% of the way. Pete Carroll's got this team firing on all cylinders. They've got running backs that are productive, right? Rashad Penny was productive before he went down. Kenneth Walker picked up right where he left off, and he went even further. Kenneth Walker III is having a fantastic rookie season, and is showing that he was probably one of the biggest steals in the draft for the Seahawks. The Seahawks struggled to run the ball last year with Russell Wilson there. We knew that. We knew that that was a thing, that they were just struggling all around, but they're making it happen. We need to make sure that when we get, I think that the Buccaneers now are figuring it out on defense. I'm not going to say that it's it's a Devin White thing. I really think that it's Vita Vea being a benefactor of Akeem Hicks being back. So we can make the argument about Ndamukong Suh, right? That Suh was the reason why Vea was able to have the success, right? Not because Vea is not a good player, but because to pick your poison. One of these two guys is going to shine, right? Like Vita and Akeem are going to shine, or Vita and Suh are going to shine. One of those two, out of those two pairings, one guy every single time is going to shine. I think that's what we're seeing now. Is we're going to see this Buccaneers team start to stack up. Now we're talking about Akeem Hicks, Nacho, Vea, and we've got this formidable defensive line. Again, that is going to plug up holes. That is going to stop you from running the ball. That is going to force you to pass the ball. And by the way, we've got a pretty good secondary back there with Mike Edwards and Sean Murphy-Bunting, who stepped up again. And Carlton Davis, of course, who's back from the hip. We've got a very solid secondary. So now if you can't run the ball on us, now this is when you start seeing turnovers. Remember how dominant the defense was weeks 1 through 3? Akeem Hicks was playing in those weeks. I'm not saying he's the be-all, end-all, but your defense starts and ends with your ability to hurry the quarterback and get into the backfield. If your defensive line can help out the secondary, good things can happen. You know that DK Metcalf is probably going to climb the ladder and beat some of our guys. He's taller, stronger, and faster. It's what happens. Just like you can't get mad when Cooper Kupp burned you for 60 yards. Because you know it's going to happen. You know that Cooper Kupp is going to make those plays. So you can't be upset at it. You can only just hope to contain the amount of times those plays are going to happen. Right? That's where you are. But I'm looking forward to waking up early and watching this. Like, I think we were all unanimously, I talked about this last week. I think unanimously we were looking at this game when it was announced going, they definitely made this schedule before the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson, because who in the hell wants to watch this game? Right? We knew that. We were all screaming that from the rooftops, from the top of our lungs, and just looking at it going, yeah, not really a fan of that. Who would have thought? The Seahawks coming in have 2 more wins than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who would have thought? I wouldn't have believed it, but here we are. Seahawks 6-3, Buccaneers 4-5. The NFC South is still theirs for the taking. It's still the weakest division, so it is still very frustrating that they're leading the division right now with a 4-5 record. And they're only leading the division with a 4-5 record because they beat the Atlanta Falcons, right? That to me that's what's frustrating me. Who would have thought that the New Orleans Saints, by the way, were going to completely implode? Right? Like, Dennis Allen's decision to continue to start Andy Dalton is befuddling to me. Sure, we like seeing the New Orleans Saints, third place, not really sure how they're looking, with a lot of question marks. Like, why are you not using Alvin Kamara last night against the Ravens like you did the week before? A lot of oddities going on with the New Orleans Saints right now. But one thing that stands out to me is while the Bucks are one game under 500, their point differential is only 2. They've been outscored by 2 points. Right? Look, for comparison, the Tennessee Titans are 5-3 and their point differential is -9. Yes, the Tennessee Titans, who are 2 games above 500, have a -9 point differential, while the Buccaneers, who are 1 game below 500, have a -2 point differential. That shows you the Buccaneers are just struggling to score points, which is a reflection of Tom Brady having only 10 touchdowns on the season. Right? Unless he's going to start throwing 4 touchdowns per game, all of our hopes that he was going to break Peyton Manning's touchdown record, it's not going to happen, unfortunately. And then also the Eagles are +90. The Bills are +102. These teams are just, I mean, they're just rolling through. I would be, if I'm looking, let's say a couple things go the Buccaneers' way. The Buccaneers, to me, are a Tennessee Titans style team right now with the way that the offense is rolling. Leading the league in dropped passes, it's not a good thing. That's part of the reason why you're leaving points on the table. Inability to run the ball, part of the reason why you're leaving points on the table. If the Buccaneers were 5-3, I wouldn't doubt that they would also be, -2, because they're not an offensive powerhouse like we're used to seeing. And I think that, to me, that's where a lot of people are struggling, is because this team, we thought that they were going to be a powerhouse, right? The Buccaneers are averaging 331.8 total yards per game. Most of that is they're averaging 60 yards on the ground. The rest of that is coming from the air. The Buccaneers are still an air raid team. They're just dropping a lot of passes. Tom Brady and Mike Evans can't seem to get on the same page. They're averaging 18 points per game. The Buccaneers last season averaged nearly 30 points per game. The season before, nearly 30 points per game. Leonard Fournette last season, much better runner than he is this season. Same with the year before. I get it. You wanted a big contract, but after you got, look, this is like Trent Richardson all over to me. You get this, you get a guy who has a good season, couple good years, wants this big old contract. He gets the contract, and then he just sits back and he's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm A-okay. Don't worry about me, guys. That's it. Make sure, as we are getting ready to jump into the Orlando Magic chat here, make sure that you guys tune in to the main event tonight, 8 p.m. Primetime Pelly, Radio John. Got those luscious locks of Radio John live on the airwaves. You never know what they're going to say. You never know. A live hot mic with Primetime Pelly is a very dangerous situation. It's a very scary situation. I'll tell you that much. As a business owner, I sit puckered the entire time those guys are on the air. Orlando last night. Orlando fell 134-127 to the Houston Rockets, which is very, it's annoying. For me, there's no better way to say that than, honestly, it's annoying. One thing that I did really enjoy is seeing Jabari Smith Jr. play for 22 minutes, go 1 from 4, 1 of 4 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. Have 4 fouls and only have 3 points on the night. 3 points, 1 board, 1 assist. Man, did we get that pick right, huh? Man, did we get that pick right by picking Paolo Banchero. Had another 30-point banger, 23 from Franz. Terrence Ross had 21 off the bench, and Mo Bamba came alive with 14 off the bench. Bamba had that beautiful putback dunk. We retweeted that, which was absolutely fantastic. Just there's nothing better than an offensive rebound that is just timed perfectly, right? That was Bomba's only offensive board of the night. And what a statement that was, right? I mean, God, it was just absolutely, it was beautiful. It really was. The Magic now sit 2-9, which is frustrating, right? We have to call a spade a spade. When you see Paolo Banchero dropping 30-point games, being only the second teenager to have a 30 and 15 game behind with LeBron James, it's frustrating when you can't start streaking together wins. And I'm sure outside of Jamal Mosley, I'm sure Banchero is very frustrated as well. But if last night is any indication, the Magic last night, they were outshot from three. What did the Rockets shoot? 24 of 48. They were 50%. The Magic were 12 of 25 for 48%. Their point differential is only 4.6 points per game. So they're still close, right? I said at the beginning of the season, I don't want to see any blowouts. We haven't seen any blowouts yet. They won the turnover battle. They outscored the Rockets by 12 in the paint. I'm okay if we're going to lose games where we're playing like this. They made the extra pass. We saw a higher output of assists from this team. If we're going to lose games where teams are nearly doubling the amount of threes and we're shooting 48% from behind the arc, I'm okay with those losses. Because you're doing everything right at that point. They were outshot on the floor. The Magic outshot the Rockets 54.9 to 52.9. I said they outscored them in the paint. The Rockets had 3 more rebounds. I mean, now you're talking about, where was the 7-point difference coming from? Well, obviously it came from hitting 12 more 3-pointers. But like I said, are we really, you can't expect a team to go 50% from 3, right? You can't expect that on a nightly basis. The Magic had 20 turnovers. Like I said, they won the turnover battle. They had 20 turnovers. The Rockets had 22 turnovers. They both created 31 points off the turnovers. Maybe that's part of your difference, right? Fast break points, 9 to 13. There's a 4-point difference there. But we're talking about a 12-point differential in the paint for the Magic. When they're doing these big lineups, things are working well. The Magic were down by 17 at one point, battled back again. Like this team is learning how to battle back. But eventually we have to stop just saying they're learning, right? Eventually you have to start putting it into action. You've got to, it's like studying for a test, right? You study, and then eventually the test comes and you have to ace and pass that test. How long are we going to continue to study for until we start applying that to quizzes and to tests, right? Like that's how I'm looking at it. I don't want to sit here and waste what Paolo Banchero was doing. I said he had another 30-point game. I don't want to waste these great efforts that we're seeing from Banchero. And I know there's injuries, right? But here's the thing: is there's always going to be injuries, right? Look at the Clippers. Look at what the Clippers are doing without Kawhi Leonard, right? There's always going to be injuries here. Well, the Pistons last night beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I know basketball is it has a lot to do with matchups, right? It has a lot to do with matchups. Caleb Houston is one of our 3-point shooting specialists, correct? I think we can say that in unison. He had 0 3-point attempts. He had 0 shot attempts. Yeah, he only played 9 minutes, but in 9 minutes, he couldn't get off one shot. Terrence Ross shot 5 of 10 from 3. I mean, 15 of his 21 points came from 3, right? Like, we got some bench output. That's what we wanted. We wanted bench production. And 11 rebounds off the bench, over 30 points off the bench. Like, that's all you can ask for from your bench players, right? Like, they've got to start putting it together. You know, you're 7 games in the hole, right? Like, this is where you didn't want to be. I was really, especially at the early start of the season. I mean, you're looking at, hey, you beat the Warriors. One of your 2 wins is against the Golden State Warriors, who had Steph, who were fully healthy. Steph Curry had nearly 40 points that game, and you still were able to beat the Golden State Warriors. You know, they're currently last place in the Eastern Conference, right? If you look at all of the other teams that you know, the younger teams, Detroit Pistons right above them, 3-8. You know, I'm going to compare the Pistons and the Magic a lot. I really am. You know, outside of Paolo Banchero just completely running away with the Rookie of the Year, they're very similar. They're both very young teams. Pistons are the youngest team, and the Magic, I think, are the second or third youngest team in the NBA. You know, if you look at your top 10 teams, you've got Philly, who's 5 and 6. James Harden's going to miss a lot of time. You would expect them to kind of fall down a little bit, right? Brooklyn's not really sure what's going on. Kyrie is possibly talking about retiring now because he's not allowed to play anyway. You know, Miami's 4 and 7. Charlotte 3. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities to go on a little streak, especially because you're playing at home. It's not out of the realm of possibilities to go on a little streak. You go on a 3-game winning streak, you're now sitting at 5 and 9. Right? Now you're only 4 games under 500, and you're looking and you're looking better. You're feeling better. We know that this young team is a very momentum-driven team. We saw that in the preseason. We saw that we saw that in Summer League. It's a very momentum-driven team, and a lot of that has to do with youth. The correlation between youth basketball players and momentum is a real thing, folks. But I want to talk about what we're seeing from Paolo Banchero. I said he had another 30-point outing last night. Paolo Banchero was leading all rookies with 23.9 points per game. Benedict Mathurin would be second place at 19.4, followed by Jaden Ivey at 15. So you're talking about nearly 4 points per game, right? That's a lot, especially for a rookie. You know, you want your number 1 overall pick. That's where you want your number 1 overall pick, right? Is you want him leading the way. Paolo Banchero is also leading all rookies in rebounds per game at 8.3 and at assists per game with 3.6. So when I say that Paolo Banchero is running away with the Rookie of the Year trophy, I'm not just saying it to be a homer. I'm not saying it to be a Magic fan. I'm saying it because it's true. Paolo Banchero is running away. He's leading in 3 statistical categories in per game averages: points, rebounds, and assists. Your top 3 most important metrics in all of basketball. He is leading. Said it at the top of this segment. Man, did we get that first pick right. Fans wanted Paolo Banchero. You never really heard much about Paolo Banchero being tied to the Magic. It was always talks about Chet Holmgren. It was always talks about Jabari Smith Jr. Paolo Banchero kind of snuck up, but the Magic deaded all of that talk. They secretly drafted Paolo Banchero number 1 overall, and absolutely was a steal. at 23.9 points per game. I know we're only 11 games into the season. So there is play for this to get better or for this to, kind of go down a little bit. Maybe average itself out, maybe plateau, whatever. Paolo Banchero is currently 16th all time in points per game for rookies. 16th all time. If he continues this trend of 25, 30-point games, we're going to see something truly remarkable and something truly amazing for Paolo Banchero. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable what we're seeing out of Banchero. I mean, you can't argue it. He's right behind Bernard King, for Christ's sake. He's above Shaq. Shaq averaged 23.4 points per game. How good was Shaquille O'Neal? Arguably the greatest player. Maybe not even arguably. Greatest player for the Orlando Magic. Averaged 23.4 points per game. Paolo Banchero, 23.9 points per game. He's currently above Allen Iverson at 23.5. He's above Terry Cummings, 23.7. Right behind Bernard King and Walter Davis at 24.4 points per game. Right there. You get two more 30-point games from Paolo Banchero. I'm starting to repeat myself here. Going crazy. I mean, we're talking about in the same conversation as Earl the Pearl Monroe, as David Robinson, Elgin Baylor, as literal all-time greats. Obviously, it's going to be a little tough for him to get into, the top. Jordan's at 28.2. Right behind him is Rick Barry at 25.7 points per game. Going to be a little hard to jump that gun, right? But I mean, he's doing it. He's getting it done. And it's impressive. And this is what you want to see out of your overall pick. When we were saying that we weren't sure whose team this was going to be heading into the season, I think we already know whose team this is. This is Paolo Banchero's team. 19 years old, almost absolutely, it's ridiculously impressive. Youngest player on the team. One of two teenagers to score 30 points and record 15 rebounds in a game. I mean, we're talking about Paolo Banchero being mentioned in the names of all-time great rookies already. We're talking about Paolo Banchero having, through 11 games, putting together a better rookie season than Shaquille O'Neal, tying LeBron James, looking better than Allen Iverson, being in the same conversation as Bernard King and some of these all-time greats. And this, it's absolutely fantastic. It's amazing to see what Paolo Banchero was doing. Now we need what we need is not necessarily guys to step up, because I think the guys around Paolo are doing they're doing fine. If Jalen Suggs retracts one game, Terrence Ross steps up, right? Like, everybody's kind of doing their part. We just need to get healthier. That's what we need. We need to get healthier, because sure, we're going to have games where Terrence Ross is coming off the bench scoring 21 points, but we've also seen plenty of games out of the 11 so far where when the bench rotation starts coming in, that's when leads start to die, because all of the bench guys are minus on their plus minus. Once you start getting healthy, now you've got that depth of guys that could potentially even be starters on other teams across the league, but they're coming off the bench because the Magic have a very deep bench of inexperienced but very capable players. And I still think Jamal Mosley is the guy to lead this team. You want a fundamentally sound coach to lead a young group of players. And Jamal Mosley is as fundamentally sound as they come. That's what you want from this team. That's what you need. This is eventually they're going to start acing the tests. I've got no doubt in my mind. Watching this team develop, I feel like they almost need to buy into Paulo. I feel like once the team buys into saying, hey, this has been Banchero's team. It's not Franz's team. It's not Wendell's team. It's not Terrence Ross's team. This is Paulo's team. We're going to rally behind him. Doesn't matter how old he is. Doesn't matter if he's a rookie. This guy is special. He has that it factor. We saw it in Summer League. I know a lot of people wanted to discredit and go, yeah, but it's Summer League. We saw it in preseason. What did people want to say? But it's preseason. We've seen it through 11 games so far. And I just mentioned some of the names that he surrounded himself with his rookie season. If he stays the course, this is an all-time great. What's one thing that the Magic don't do is miss on first overall picks. They don't miss on first overall picks. Shaq, Chris Webber, who was traded for Penny, Dwight Howard, Paolo Banchero. You don't miss on first overall picks if you're the Orlando Magic, and they definitely got this one right. I couldn't be any more excited that we've got this kid on our team and start building around this and make sure that they don't let the same thing happen that happened with Shaq, where he says, hey, I'm going to go elsewhere because you're not going to offer me enough money or whatever. Continue to build around this guy, continue to build around him, and good things will come for the Orlando Magic in the very near future. That's going to wrap it up for us today. Going to get out of here a little early today on this Tuesday. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I hope if you're watching the replay, you stop the internet narratives that the Buccaneers are not running the ball. They are. They're running it. But continue the narrative that Paolo Banchero is absolutely an elite NBA player. Please continue that narrative. And if you haven't started it, start that trend. I am Danny. This was Channelside in the Morning, live from the Channelside Sports